This week, SAP's 2020 SAPPHIRE and ASA conference was due to take place in Florida. As I've done for the past couple of years, I was scheduled to talk about SAP Enable Now there. Unfortunately, the conference has been cancelled due to COVID-19, so I won't get the opportunity to speak this year. But I did want to share some of what I would have presented. My topic this year was delighting users through point-of-need training and feedback. So here's my thoughts on that. Firstly, how do you determine if your users are delighted? You could ask them, but if you ask 10 users what it would take for them to be delighted about your training, you'll probably get 10 different answers, 9 of which will be completely unfeasible and a couple will be likely unrepeatable. But an easy way of determining whether your users at least like your material is whether they're actually using it. And SAP Enable Now thankfully provides a fairly easy way of determining that. Aside from the ability to track individual course assignments, SAP Enable Now provides a training content usage report, a desktop assistant usage report, and a web assistant usage report. So no matter how your users are accessing your content, you can quantifiably determine how much they're using it. Now, knowing what content your users are using is useful, but it's not as useful as knowing what content they're not using. For example, if you see that the procurement content isn't being looked at with the same frequency as, say, the sales content, you might want to do some research as to why. Maybe procurement have been busy developing their own material, in which case you might want to see about incorporating their material into your SAP Enable Now library. Or you could just leave them to do their own thing and not bother creating and maintaining additional content for them at all if they're not going to use it anyway. Or maybe they just don't know the material's there, in which case a little promotion may help. Either way, having the usage metrics available to you allows you to see where you need to focus your efforts. The other way we can determine whether our users are happy with what we're giving them is through feedback. A blanket survey will typically not help here, as responses invariably skew to the negative and the feedback may not be detailed enough to be actionable. By contrast, SAP Enable Now allows users to provide feedback per content object right from within that content object. Users can feedback on simulations and courseware, whether this is accessed via the trainer, the desktop assistant, or the web assistant. And all of this feedback is consolidated into the All Learner Feedback Report. This report is output to Microsoft Excel, from where you can analyze it to your heart's content. I typically create a couple of simple pivot tables on this data. The first of these is a simple analysis of which content objects are receiving the largest amount of feedback. The more feedback, the more likely that content needs to be reworked or enhanced, because, again, feedback tends to skew to the negative. The other pivot table I create is feedback by user to see which users are providing the most feedback. Why? Because these users clearly have an affinity for the material and a desire to see it improved. So maybe they'll make good subject matter experts, or can be co-opted into helping review or even update your training material themselves. Now, getting feedback is all well and good, but as with all metrics, it's only useful if it drives actions. So if users are providing feedback, you need to respond to that feedback and quickly. If a user identifies a typo, fix it within a day or two. If they need more information or want something clarifying, get that done within a couple of weeks. And make sure your users know you're being responsive. Typically, this will be by maintaining a changelog within each piece of content or a What's New page. Also, consider name-checking the user who provided the feedback in this changelog. Maybe you enter version 1.3 typo reported by John Doe corrected, or clarifications provided in response to requests by Jill Smith. Why? Because it makes the users feel appreciated and validated and allows them to feel like they are personally involved in the content, which will make them use it more as they feel it's theirs. A little personal recognition here can go a long way to fostering increased usage. Okay, one last thing. All of this is reactive. Consider also being proactive. I record the content owner and last review date of every single piece of training content. I can then extract lists periodically of all content that hasn't been reviewed in a year or two and send this to the content owner for them to revalidate the material. This is a great way of making sure that the content's kept up to date with system or process changes you may not have been in the loop on. In addition, if you record this periodic review in the changelog, even if just to say May 2020 content confirmed as still current, users will see this. And you'll avoid the common situation of users perceiving the training material as being out of date just because it hasn't been updated in 5 years, which may be valid if the system or process hasn't changed. So, in summary, to keep your users delighted with your training material, check that they're using it, gather object-level feedback, and demonstrably respond to this and perform periodic validation. That's it. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you at SAPPHIRE 2021.